Welcome to another episode of Samori Speaks. Today I'm going to talk about 9 reasons why black people should homeschool or start their own schools. There are a million reasons why we we should start our own schools or homeschool our children. I'm just going to focus on 9. So let's get right into it. One of the first reasons I would say that we need to start our own schools or homeschool is that we need Africanization and not standardization. Our curriculum needs to be relevant to us. It needs to be rigorous, but it must be relevant to who we are right now, where we have been, and where we are trying to go. The future, the destiny of a black child, as James Wilson would say, is to be revolutionary, is to help us change the position that we're in, to help us solve the kind of problems that we have as a community. It must not be standardized. We don't have the same problems that other people have, right? And if we're talking about standardization in the United States of America, we know that that standardization is not going to give our children what they need. It's going to be very Eurocentric. That's what we're getting in the schools. It's going to be something that does not value critical thinking. It's going to be something that is really about read, remember, and regurgitate. And we don't need that. We need a curriculum that is customized to our situation, a curriculum that helps us to or helps our children begin to love themselves, a curriculum that begins to help our children to be independent and very much thinking about what we need to do in the future for our people, not some standardized kind of education. Another thing that we need, of course, or another reason why we should homeschool or start our own schools is because we can teach our children to their interests. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to know how fast a child can go, send them where they want to go. At Kamali Academy, we had a student who wanted to make video games. So I said, okay, well, since that's your interest, I'm going to try to teach you English, math, science. I'm going to try to teach you all these subjects through your interests. So I got some of the best books on video game design, and that's exactly what we did. We taught him mathematics, we taught him science, we taught him our story and anthropology and even psychology through his love or his want or his desire to learn about video games. I'm talking about this brother didn't even want to read before he came to us. But once we began to tap into his interests, he read voraciously. I mean, he went to the library on his own and borrowed books from myself on a myriad of different topics in order to get more information about what he was learning about, right? Because he wanted to learn about that thing. Our children in the public school system or the private school system or the charter school system or wherever they are right now, their interests are not what the schools are looking at. They don't care about our children's interests. They care about the dollars and they care about testing. But if we have our own homeschools, if we have our own schools, we can tap into our children's interests. We can tap into what their purpose is in life and help them get to where they're trying to get. Right. Another one that we see is that, look, if we have our own schools, we can have real life tests and not those standardized tests that they really teach our children for in the school system. Right. As we see in the picture here, it's a testing factory over there, and the boy is trying to jump out the window to go outside because the world is really, or should be, the classroom. Right. When I say real life tests, if my child is doing math, sure, I can give them some paper and pen test or quiz that can see if they know how to divide and multiply and do algebra and whatnot. But wouldn't it be better if we had our children actually bring together a business plan where they talk about their first year of operations and they break down the math on those things? Wouldn't it be better if our children in health class really understood their body and understood how food affects their body, how the environment affects their body, and all these different things? So maybe they should make a brochure to help other people understand what a healthy lifestyle is about. Maybe they should create a menu for a healthy lunch, and we already know what kind of food that they're feeding our children in the public food system. Here at Kamali Academy, or at my school, Kamali Academy, we have a policy with the food: no meat, no dairy, no sweets. Some parents don't like it, so their children don't come. But that's what we're about, because we understand that what we put into our body, whether it's in our minds, through our eyes, and through our mouths, has an effect on who we are. So we want to be healthy in all ways, right? And so again, real life tests. Real life tests. Right now, our students are learning about Marcus Garvey, right? So I say, you know what? In order to understand or to assess whether or not you know what you need to know about Marcus Garvey, we're going to do a PSA, a public service announcement. The goal of it is to make sure that every black child in the world knows about Marcus Garvey, right? And we want to put that out there like, yo, everybody should know about Marcus Garvey and all the things that he did. So if you can write, right, you're going to be working on your writing by writing the script for this PSA. Then, I will see if you know the things or the skills that we've been trying to teach you in terms of writing. And if you can communicate effectively in front of a camera, then that is also assessing whether or not you have been learning the skills that we've been teaching you about communication. But also, if you have the knowledge and wisdom about Marcus Garvey, then we assess that as well, because the video will bear that out. Right, so we need real life tests, not just some paper and pen tests. Paper and pen tests are good sometimes, but not all the time. And we want to think about the standardized test that we see is really about a snapshot. Right, it just takes a snapshot of our child, and really it burdens our child, because our child believes that, look, if I don't pass this test, then I'm not smart. Right, but we should have a system where it's not about a snapshot; it's about a photo album, right? So I see you in this picture on this assessment. You looked all right. You did pretty good. I see you on another assessment. You did really well. I see you in another picture or another assessment that wasn't really your strong suit. So I begin to get a wider range or a fuller picture of who the child is as a student, right? So I'm not just taking one snapshot and saying, okay, that's what it is. That is not the way we do things as Africans. We understand that students have multiple intelligences, and they show their intelligence in various different ways, or in various ways, right? So another reason that we should homeschool, and we hear this because I think we need civilization and not socialization. We have so many parents, so many people, say, well, what about socialization of a child? Well, look, I don't know what's going on in those public schools. Many people don't know what's going on. I mean, there's rampant consumerism in public schools. Children feel like I gotta have the brand new Michael Uncle Tom Jordan shoes on my feet. There's a push towards relationship and sexuality too early. In the public schools, you talk about the violence. You talk about all these different things that are going on in schools. I would rather my child have civilization. I would rather my child understand the value of hard work and persistence. I'd rather my child have the morals and character that I want my child to have. And so that's what we can do if we have our own homeschools and our own schools. And particularly, we can have rites of passage programs as an integral part of our schools. And in traditional African societies, the young boys, the young girls, they will go away into the bush for months at a time, 3 or 4 years at a time, or even sometimes 10 years, to go into the bush and to learn everything they need to learn about their culture, to learn what they need to learn about what they're going to do once they become a man or become a woman. And we need to have those same kind of things, because there's no such thing as a teenager, right? You're either a boy or you're a man, and we cannot leave it to chance that they will just become a man. We cannot just leave it to chance that they will become a woman. We must teach them, and our schools must be geared to do that. And that's why we need our own homeschools. That's one of the reasons why we need our own homeschools, or our own institutions, right? And we talk about the word socialization. The word socialization means the process of making someone behave in ways that are acceptable to their society. This society deems what appropriate for black people: self-hatred, right? A lack of knowledge of self, miseducation, cultural misorientation, right? So that's the socialization that they're getting right now. We don't need that kind of socialization. We need civilization. We need our children to be the best Africans that they can be, right? So another reason why we need to have our own homeschools or institutions is we can create our own schedule, right? We don't have to go by anybody else's schedule. Who says that school is supposed to go from August until June or May, right? Why can't it be full time, right? Why can't it be, all year round? Why can't we, do school outside? Because the world is our classroom, right? I mean, our students, we were dealing with geometry, and geometry, geo means earth, metry means to measure, right? So geometry means to measure the earth. So we went outside and measured the different shapes that we saw in our own environment. And that was one of the best lessons that I could have ever come up with. And the students really, really enjoyed it, because, again, it wasn't, a standardized test. It was, again, a real life test. Go out and measure your world. So now I will understand if you understand perimeter. Now, I will understand if you understand the area of a triangle or a rectangle, the area of a circle, the circumference of a circle, the perimeter of a square. I now will understand that you really understand because you did it. Guess what? In your world, right? We can create our own schedule. Another reason why we should homeschool or have our own schools is that we need independence and not dependence. What kind of personality is created when a child is told what to do from 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon? In many cases here in New Orleans, with charter schools, 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, right? I have students who I ask them, I say, what do you want to learn about? And they have no idea what they want to learn about because they are so used to being dependent upon somebody else telling them, okay, you're going to learn this today and you're going to learn this next week, and we're going to take a test on those things at the end of the month, that they have never even thought of what they actually like. And so in our own homeschools and our own schools, we can develop the independence in our children. We can help them learn about the things they want to learn about and be independent learners to go and seek the answers. I tell parents all the time, don't ask your child, what did they do in school today or what did they learn at school today. Ask them, what kind of questions did you ask? Because if you're not asking any questions, then you're probably not interested and you're probably not learning very much. So we want to focus on our children asking the best questions. We have so-called rewards at Kamali Academy for the students who ask the best questions, because curiosity is the hallmark of knowledge, right? The hallmark of wisdom. So we want our children to be independent. We want them also to learn how to grow their own gardens, how to build their own businesses. If we're not doing that, then we are nothing but educated servants of our 21st century slave masters, and we are no different from our enslaved ancestors, right? So we need to be independent as a people. So we need to teach our children how to be independent and not dependent, right? Psychologically, physically, or otherwise. All right. So another one, number 7, no drugs. Right, ADHD, all these psychotropic drugs that they're giving our children are really killing our children. We really don't even know all the ramifications of drugging our children like this. But we do know that the schools make a lot of money off of our children when they are labeled with these ADHDs and all this kind of stuff, or when they're labeled as special ed, and they are pushing our black boys particularly into these classes so that they can really be left behind. Right. So, but we have our own schools, we have our own homeschools. Then guess what? Those gateway drugs are not a part of the picture. Right. We don't have any special ed because we can take the time and care we need to understand how our children learn and teach them towards their interests, give them real life assessment, real life tests that assess whether they get this information, get this knowledge that we're helping to pull forth from within them. That's what education means, to pull forth from within what you already have within you, right? We're just trying to get them to remember who they are, remember what they already know, right? And another thing is the environment. There's an African proverb that says that a plant, no matter how healthy, can survive in contaminated soil. If we have these guys in our schools, if we have the metal detectors in our schools, we have situations where children cannot even talk at lunch. Is that the kind of environment that we want our children in? If all the images that our children see on the walls do not look like them, they see in the textbooks do not look like them, all the stories that they read, in English class have nothing to do with black people or only to do with the slave experience of black people, then that is not the kind of environment that is conducive for the kind of knowledge and wisdom we want our children to come out of our educational process with. So we have to change the environment. We have to plant our children in the soil of our own schools or our own homeschools, so that we may cultivate them as the seeds that they are, so that they can be the great trees of tomorrow. And lastly, the last reason why we should homeschool or build our own schools, because guess what? Damn it, it's time. The time is now. They've had 200 years to educate our children, and they have done a masterful job of miseducating them. The school system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and we're allowing it to do it. We protest and say, well, we shouldn't do it. We should have black history in the schools and all this kind of thing. People don't care about us. They don't care about our needs, our children's interests, or what we care about. We have to do it for ourselves. The time is now. If not now, then when? If not you, then who? If you need any more information about homeschooling, please visit my website at samorikamara.com or on my school website at kamaliacademy.wordpress.com. Email me, call me. We can help with the curriculum. We can help you set up a homeschooling model or set up an African-centered institution wherever you are, so that we can have our children really have education for liberation. All right. So again, it's time. We need Africanization, right? Not standardization. We need real life assessment. We need to teach our children through their interests. We need to have our own schedules. We need to have a conducive environment. We don't need drugs in our schools, right? We need to only be teaching our children for liberation, education for liberation. And I'll see you next time. Peace.